What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. So, looking at Tesla stock, we have a bullish and a bearish case that's developing so far. And the reason why I'm being uncertain is because it depends on the shareholder meeting when we can't always predict how everything will go or what the share price will always do after these big events. But for now, I do want to warn you to be very mindful of these setups, which could lead to either big upside or big downside for Tesla stock. And I'll talk about them in just a couple of minutes. So, first, just know this: there's been some negative news involving Tesla stock. The German sales are currently down about 53% in Germany for the month of October, down to about 1,607 vehicles that Tesla had sold. Not the best of news so far. So, compared to the same month in 2024, we're still down quite a bit. And that's not the best of news, at least thus far. There's also rising competition that is affecting them. And then on top of this, when it comes to the shareholder meeting, that is still going to be happening today at 3 p.m. Central Time. So I think that this is a bigger catalyst for Tesla despite that news. So today at 3 p.m., we have the shareholder meeting. That's going to be at 3 p.m. Central Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you guys mark your calendars or have this ready. It's very important for Tesla. When it comes to the news involving the overall markets, just know this: we're actually seeing this making world news right now that Tesla has the very important shareholder meeting, and Elon Musk's pay package is going to be once again what investors will be voting upon. So I believe that the majority of shareholders do tend to vote in favor of this because it happened last time. But in this case, we're going to see what kind of reaction this brings for Tesla stock because we already pushed so much approaching this. On top of this, there's been some more news that came out involving the Supreme Court and President Trump's tariffs. Unfortunately for President Trump, the Supreme Court justices appear to be more skeptical of the legality of President Trump's tariffs on both the conservative and liberal sides. So, not the best of news, at least thus far, at least for him and for anyone that supports what's going on, right? And I'd be very unbiased when I say that. So the news is coming out that we had the liberal justice say that the quote is that they said that the tariffs are not taxes, but that's exactly what they are. And then we also had the conservative justice come out. So Neil came out and he basically talked about how President Trump's way of unilaterally imposing the duties seemed to be questionable. Basically, he basically questioned it. He was very, very wary of the way that President Trump had done that. So, not the best of news so far, at least for what President Trump had stated at least last week about how he believes his tariffs are necessary, right? So it's not the best of news for him, but this is technically bullish news for the stock market because when tariffs are imposed, that tends to be bearish for the markets. The market tends to sell off. And if tariffs are going to be canceled, if the legality just isn't really there according to the Supreme Court, that could be more bullish. And I think that's part of why the market's holding up. There is a lot of skepticism from the Supreme Court about President Trump's tariffs. Besides that, and just keep in mind one more thing before I continue, nothing's guaranteed yet. We don't know for sure. This is what we're hearing so far based off the oral arguments, but things could change as time goes on. So we don't know for sure what's about to happen, but as of right now, that is what is the primary notion. Now, moving forward, the government shutdown is unfortunately continuing, affecting airlines, data, and millions of Americans' lives. We're hoping to see some kind of legislation that passes to keep the government funded, but as of right now, we don't really have that, so not the best of news. That's why a lot of data is going to be delayed today. Today is Thursday, November 6th, 2025. At 11 o'clock a.m., we have Barr and Williams from the Fed giving speeches. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that's too significant coming out for today. A very quiet data day. Also for Thursday and Friday, there's not really much coming out. It's very, very quiet data. So with that being said, what do I see for Tesla stock? Well, the bulls are going to argue that we have a nice accumulation right here and that Tesla is going to be looking as a result. It's going to be looking more bullish, right? Because we're holding up quite decently and there are a lot of buyers who are trying to defend. But there is also a bearish case, which is the head and shoulders that's forming right here. So if you want to be bullish on Tesla, just real quick, see how we're riding this white trend line up. We keep on bouncing off this trend line. There's a good chance that we could continue to uptrend from this and start pushing back up for 470 plus. But as of right now, that's going to be the more bullish case if we ride this trend line up, right? We need to continue to hold above this trend line. But there's also a bearish case And sometimes after these big events, such as like earnings, the shareholder meetings, or deliveries, Tesla likes to sell off. So, for example, when deliveries came out in the beginning of October, Tesla pumped and dumped. So, just to be very clear, sometimes that happens. So, the bearish case is going to be this: if Tesla basically has a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, and if we start losing like 450, I'd be very, very concerned of us retesting these lows or even making new lows to fill this gap down here. If we end up losing like 450, of course, Tesla could be dipping lower for a head and shoulders. And it could be looking for a big sell off after the shareholder meeting if that ends up being the case. Tesla's been holding up quite nicely approaching the shareholder meeting, so we'll see how it ends up going. If we're bullish, you want to break 465 and hold above it. If we hold at 465, we're looking for 470 plus. If we're bearish, you want to see us lose 455 and this white trend line around 450. So you want to lose this trend line. If we lose this, we could be dipping back down towards 445 or below. In my opinion, I think that this morning Tesla will likely dip towards 455 to 460. Then we'll see if we could bounce right here. And I did predict there would be some consolidation likely coming. And then there's going to be a big move approaching the shareholder meeting. Either we pump up and make new highs or we get some kind of rug pull, right? The head and shoulders is there, so it could go either way. So I'd warn you to be very careful. And I think that there's going to be a big move coming. So we'll see if Tesla kind of pumps or dumps after the shareholder meeting. Don't forget there's a gap down here to fill, so it could go either way. So expect some consolidation to start things off. It might dip a little bit and trade sideways. And then we're going to be watching to see if this gap fills or not. So be very careful with Tesla. The setup is looking kind of neutral, but there is some downside risk looking at how we're moving. For SPY, on the other hand, we are looking a bit more bullish because on the 30 minutes time frame, we have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern, and we're going to be watching to see if this pans out or not. If we're bearish, you want to see us lose 676 and 675 these fails. We could be looking for these lows to be retested. But if we're bullish, you want to see us basically reclaim 678. If 678 holds, we could be looking for a big bounce for the inverse head and shoulders for the 680s. As of right now, we have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. And as long as we can hold support and get back above 678, we're going to be favoring a bounce for the 680s as the most likely possibility. We'll see if that happens or not. So watch your levels and be very, very patient. Same thing with the QQQ. There's an inverse head and shoulders. If we're bearish, you want to see us essentially fail here at 622. If that fails us, we could be dipping to 620. But if we hold and get back above 625, we're going to be looking for an attempt to push for this inverse head and shoulders to push to fill this gap at 629. The setup looks more bullish, so we'll see how it goes just to be safe. But as of right now, that's what I'm essentially seeing. For the IWM, we have an accumulation. As long as we don't lose 244, we could be bouncing for essentially 245. There's a good chance we try to rebound, so give that some time. ES also has an inverse head and shoulders. So long as we don't lose 6,800, we're looking for some consolidation and an attempt to push for 6,860 for more upside. On NQ, we have an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't end up losing 25,600, we're going to be looking for 26,000 as our potential target with this inverse head and shoulders that's forming. So we might be looking for a big push for now. So for now, NQ and ES look more bullish with the inverse head and shoulders. Bitcoin's holding up decently. We're going to see if 101,000 holds. If we lose that, we're turning bearish. But as long as we can hold 102,500, we're looking for a bounce back up towards 104,000. Tesla's in the middle, could be retesting 460 to 455, then it should bounce and just trade sideways for now. But then watch and see if we break 465 to be bullish or lose 450 to be more bearish. We're in the middle until we see what happens after the shareholder meeting, in my personal opinion. On Nvda, we're showing some weakness. We need to get back above essentially 198 to be bullish. We have 194 and 200 as our main ranges. If 194 fails us, we could be tipping more, but we're range bound for now. Apple's consolidating. We're stuck between 270s our resistance and 268 our support. We're going to likely continue to trade sideways. So watch this very closely. Palantir is also forming an inverse head and shoulders. We're going to be watching to see if we hold above 188. If so, we could be looking for 192. Looking at Amazon, we have an inverse head and shoulders here. Could be retesting 253, and we'll see if we bounce or not. For Coinbase, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. So long as we don't lose like 310, we're looking for a bounce back up towards 325. Amazon also has an inverse head and shoulders. We're going to see if we could rebound from here and start pushing for like 252. Meta is looking kind of flat. It does favor upside a bit more looking at the 4 hour. I need to see this basically hold above 640. If it does, we could be looking for like 650 very soon for a temporary bounce. Google looks more bullish, favoring 292. And then Microsoft is kind of flat right now. It might be tipping towards the low 500s before it tries to bounce. The VIX is also neutral, so it basically tells us the market could be going either way. So be very unbiased with the way in which we're moving. And finally, for Tesla stock, there is a bullish and a bearish case. We look like we might be retesting like 460, and then I do see some consolidation upon open. We're going to see if this head and shoulders is invalidated, if SPY could try to push above like 465 and then 470 to break out higher, or if we lose 450 to be more bearish if this head and shoulders is about to pan out. I think the best thing to do is just be patient with Tesla and watch for this price action. We might see a lot of consolidation for now. We'll see if 465 to 470 breaks though, but I just think that we trade sideways for now and we're looking for a big move, either approaching or like right after the shareholder meeting. So we'll see how it goes. Keep in mind that the setup could go either way, so watch your levels. Do what you have to do, guys. Thank you all so much for listening, and peace out.